جانيت لاف، زي ما بعض حضراتكم شاف على الدعوة، هقول لكم نبذة بسيطة عنها. هي اشتركت في النضال ضد حكم الفصل العنصري من سنة 74. بدأت بالمشاركة في برنامج أطلقوا مجموعة من طلاب الجامعات لبناء المدارس في الريف، وبعدها انخرطت في النشاط السياسي الطلابي وفي الحركة النقابية الصاعدة في السبعينات في جنوب افريقيا. في نهاية 75 بدأت المشاركة في العمل السري مع المؤتمر الوطني الإفريقي، وقتها كان منظمة محظورة. انضمت بعدها للجناح المسلح للحركة، وفي ابريل 76 اشتركت في العمل السري في الوقت اللي قامت فيه انتفاضة السويتو، واستمرت في العمل السري المسلح بعد ذلك إلى أن اضطرت إلى ترك جنوب افريقيا سنة 78.
In South Africa in the 1960s, racism was not just something that happened in South Africa, but it was the law. You had to be a racist, basically. In the build-up to 1960, right through the 1950s in South Africa, there were a lot of demonstrations, there were a lot of mobilizations, there was a lot of distribution of literature, of materials, to make the population that had been disenfranchised stand up for the rights of the people of South Africa as a whole. And the way people's movement was controlled in South Africa was through having to have a document called a pass, which was a document that if you were walking just from your house to the person next door, you had to carry, whether it was in the night, whether it was in the day. If you did not have that document on you and you were an African person, you would be arrested. In 1960, where the African National Congress and a smaller breakaway organization, the Pan-Africanist Congress, both organizations, declared that year as a year in which the resistance to the pass laws would be mobilizing the majority, the overwhelming majority of the population, all of those who were disenfranchised and all of the Democrats in South Africa. You had aeroplanes, jets, flying low above the crowd in order to try and intimidate people. And at one point, it's alleged, one of the demonstrators threw a stone. We don't know who it was, we don't know if the stone was thrown, but that was the excuse. So one stone with jets, 300 armed police, was enough to enable the police to open with live bullets on the crowd. And 69 people were killed, most of them shot in the back. Now, up until that point, both the ANC and the PAC repeatedly, their leadership repeatedly, said that they were committed to non-violent struggle. But what happened after Sharpeville was that the question of how much can people tolerate was, of course, the number one question in people's minds. But at the same time, while this was happening, the ANC took a decision that not only did it need to continue the protests within South Africa, and it was banned within 2 weeks of Sharpeville, the ANC and the PAC were banned. Not only did it have to do that, but it had to be clear that it needed to get the outside world to understand what was happening. There are a lot of realities and practicalities that need to be taken into account. Now, one of the issues around boycotts, around isolation, around material support, depended on the strength of the anti-apartheid movement internationally. It depended on the international context. And right through our struggle, you will see that the international context is one issue that can never be underestimated. In December, on the 16th of December 1961, what you had was a situation where the ANC launched its armed struggle. The military wing of the ANC was made public, Umkhonto weSizwe, and the tactic, or the strategic approach rather, that the African National Congress adopted in those early days was the strategy of armed propaganda, that the society understands and embraces, but also has a belief that the impossible, what is believed to be impossible, is actually possible. And that's what armed propaganda was all about. So one of the things that Morogoro put in place was a recognition that you cannot separate your armed struggle, even if it's an armed propaganda struggle, from your political struggle, from winning over the hearts and minds of the citizenry.